Thursday, November 21st, 2019. Bitcoin prices slide lower and Bitcoin dominance increases. Altcoin bag holders' worst nightmare. All that and more on today's episode of the 24 Hours of Bitcoin. Now, by far, the biggest question that people are asking as I get private messages, as I get emails, as people are talking in our Discord chat, they're asking what should they be doing with their long-term held bag of altcoins. I'm excited to share with you everything that we're doing with the altcoins and how we're preparing for the next stage in the altcoins later in the video. But first, let's dig into the Bitcoin indicators and see what's happening right now in this big bearish move. Let's jump into the indicator suite and we'll scan through the relative strength index from the weekly view. First of all, we've been watching for this uptrend line for months. It broke at this top formation level and then it broke at this top formation level just here. And so we've seen some bearish confirmations as this relative strength index has been breaking down below these levels. It is at a critical point right now that if we go down below these levels, we're certainly going to be looking for that $5,800 level from the long-term log view of the charts. Let's zoom into the one-day view and we can see this, what Crypto Sniper calls the pissing off the roof formation. It's a perfect analogy. We can see the exhaustion wicks, we can see the 1, 2, 3 formation underneath technical support and resistance level. In hindsight, it's a very clear sell signal right there. And as we go through the episode, we'll see that the indicators also were giving us very clear sell signals at that very moment as that broke. Now we're watching to see how further down does this relative strength index go since we're coming to a new level of technical support and resistance. We'll continue to observe this at the point. Let's zoom in closely now to see how oversold this is compared to where it's been in the past, and to note that we are now watching for this trend line to break as the prices make a potential 1, 2, 3 bottom formation eventually as they go down. So we'll continue to monitor them and see what they're doing, just to monitor it. So the big news the last few days was anticipation of this to be jumping up all the way every single time we had the divergence, the divergence. And so the small divergence on this trend wasn't the big news. The trend really wasn't seriously broken, except for a couple potential 1, 2, 3 bottom formations that as they failed, this is really important to be watching these failure levels. Very key stuff on the way down. But all of that is rhetoric because the 4-hour exponential moving average crossed to the negative side. So from that point forward, after the 1, 2, 3 top formation, there's nothing to do but look for selling opportunities. My mistake for always watching for the bullish turnaround, but I'll continue to do it anyway. In the 1 hour time frame, I'm looking to see when does the RSI hit some lowers. Clearly, I'm expecting this to go down. Not even the 1 hour exponential moving average crossed to the positive. So it's going to take some juice now before we're going to get something. And we could get, some unexpected blast up. There's no preparing for that in my own setup here. Now I'm just going to continue observing as this unfolds to see what's going on with this and how does this little relative strength index divergence set up in the long term. It is important, even though it's small, simply because of the technical levels. All of them were important, even though they're small, simply because of the technical levels. And any trade size in here, the saving grace for my own long trades is the small size and the quick ability to take my losses and try again, and take my loss and try again. I want to go through the volume indicator here on the weekly view. It is still negative, but really hasn't dumped harder. Let's zoom into the closer time frames to see how much more juice they had, because for the past while I've been noting and commenting on this negative divergence. It's a bullish divergence where we have this setup. It's still not enough selling volume to really knock it down. And as we see later in the episode, the Bitcoin longs haven't dropped back significantly enough yet. I think we're in for more downside. So this is easing back. It is not stronger. And yet we are having a bearish divergence here too. So we've got the bullish versus the bearish divergence right at the tip, a usual thing. As we go into the 4-hour time frame, this didn't turn around to positive buying on any of these platforms. Every single time here, it was in a negative on balance volume stance after this crossed. So no matter how hard I looked for the bullish details, I wasn't able to find the same thing as we saw back here. And I certainly wasn't able to find this kind of bullish buying going on, anticipating that this was, being bought up as we're getting prepared to go. So for now, it is all looking bearish and more bearish actually. So we'll continue to zoom in and watch to see where and when does that turnaround actually happen. Eventually it will. So here we have pretty steady equal dumping actually from these two lows. So we've got a consistent amount of selling now. It doesn't seem like it's really easing back as it did here and gave us the potential for the turnaround. Instead, it broke that 1, 2, 3 formation and we had a couple serious bunch of selling here. So it doesn't appear that we're finished selling yet. Let's go into the 15-minute just to observe this and then quickly into the 5-minute. This is a similar pattern that I was watching before and saying that, oh, look, we have serious dumping and less dumping, so maybe this is catching itself here and we've got this turnaround going on. Same thing here, we've got the dumping and less dumping. Oh, we've got some buying going on. Maybe this is the turnaround here. But again, the most important thing are the longer term views and paying attention to the exponential moving average crossover, both on the 12-hour and on the 4-hour time frame. Both of those confirm. Let's go into the next indicator. Because this, I was saying all along that it is in a bearish stance. We've got these exhaustion wicks. It is a 1, 2, 3 top formation. It is still bearish on the weekly view. Nothing going on here. The daily was giving us some potential for the bullishness, but it crossed bearish in this 1, 2, 3 top formation. Nothing doing, right? We're in a bearish stance. It hasn't switched. The 12-hour is still continuing bearish. We have a crossover on the 12-hour EMA. The 4-hour has been flitting back and forth all the way along here, so much so that as it crossed to the positive through this period yesterday, I was like, quiet, because I was all excited about this one. I was all excited about this one. Each time it looked like that could be the takeoff. Much the same error I was making back here, expecting the takeoff, expecting the takeoff, expecting the takeoff, and not paying attention to where those exponential moving averages were that just say it all. Let's continue on now. Where did I get to in this? 1-hour time frame. Okay, it's flaring negative here. We can see that at each of these breaks here, the 1 hour, while it was in an uptrend and diverging against the flat prices, as soon as it crossed, it's going down. And then over time, we can see that there's an average of lower crosses and lower crosses all the way along. Great stuff to put in our bag of tricks. Great data to keep in our minds. Now let's go on to the Ichimoku cloud and talk about what it has been telling us over the last bit. Let's get rid of prices so that we can see when the blue line crossed below the red line. This was a really key day in hindsight. Now let's zoom in on this more. I'm going to go into the daily time frame because this is where my most recent analysis error found most of its erroneous traction. I was looking at these two different parts of the chart, noting that, hey, look at this. This is below the cloud and the blue line was above the red. Even though we're in this potential 1, 2, 3 top formation, the difference here is that we're in the cloud, we're in this 1, 2, 3 top formation, but the blue is still way above the red. You see how that crossed over much earlier at this time frame. And so I thought right at this point and right at this point that we were going to be going up. Now, as the blue line crossed over the red line and we are inside the cloud coming down, now I'm stretching it because if I go to different time frames, they are already gone bearish. They are already finished. So from the daily time frame, we can see here that it didn't really give us the full negative complete signal until after it was already breaking down these levels, as the Ichimoku in the longer term frame does. Very good. But for my own part, if I zoom in now to the 12-hour time frame, this had crossed as we made the 1, 2, 3 top formation after these exhaustion wicks. As that crossed, it was bearish right there. And I know that the 4-hour exponential moving average crossed right after this. So the charts are clear. It's easy for us to actually see it. The difficulty is to go along with what the charts are actually telling us rather than our belief in the coin, in the project, in the fundamentals, in the news, in whatever else that makes us rationalize and justify against something clear and obvious in the chart pattern. The only thing that saves you from taking the wrong action here is repeating this over and over until this knowledge isn't just something you say and you agree with like a philosopher, but it becomes something that you are initiated with now with emotion, and that you practice this over and over again, and you become a master of these combination of a few things that can really change your success levels. So as I zoom into the 4-hour time frame on this, we can see exactly the same time out of this 1, 2, 3 top formation, the 4-hour Ichimoku bear went bear. And I'm using the standard Ichimoku pattern levels here because I find that it really works well with the 4-hour and the 12-hour exponential moving average crossovers. This is another example that we can take, that we can put into our pocket. It becomes a permanent piece of knowledge for us about how the Ichimoku cloud works in combination with the 1, 2, 3 formation, especially when we are looking at these time frames. When we're looking at the 4-hour and the 12-hour time frames, and we are giving ourselves weeks of time for this to work out, we're going to need to take a smaller size position with lower leverage so that it has the time to play itself out, so that we're not paying extreme costs, we're not taking extreme risks, but going with the trend and making that our friend. So this is a beautiful example. I really love it. Now, when I zoom into the 1-hour time frame, we already have the bearish view from the 12-hour and the 4-hour. So the 1 hour is either going to cancel that out or it's going to confirm it. So every time it does a retest, it is in the process of maybe canceling out those bearish views from the 12 and the 4 hour. This is the very beginning. But as that fails and the 4 and the 12 hour are still king, this becomes a sell signal in the downtrend right there. A sell signal in the downtrend, a sell signal in the downtrend, a sell signal in the downtrend. All of these were classic Ichimoku cloud sell signals in the downtrend with a confirming bias to the bearish side from the longer term time frames. Now I want to go into the Bollinger Bands. As I was reflecting on for the last few episodes, the Bollinger Bands have been decidedly in a bearish stance. And I've been watching to see, are we coming into a turnaround? And I really don't know. As we're zooming in on the Bollinger Bands, I can see that the prices are just sliding all the way along the band. But again, the top of the band is staying flat and it's not going wider. And I don't know. I'm just observing now, and we'll see how this plays out over time. I'm going to leave this drawn in here so that we can compare it against the other time frames. Now as I zoom into the 12-hour time frame rather, it's the same phenomenon except that we have a downtrend with the band. And the price is just sliding right along the bottom of the band here. It may, slide and then do a big move actually as it's passing through these levels. This is a real clear possibility that it could be sliding and do a big zoop down like this. If that's the case, I anticipate that this should widen as we're going down. Now, the last thing I want to look at here for the 12-hour time frame is that it was outside of the band and had moved its way into the band. As I go to the 4-hour time frame, it was outside of the band, moved its way inside, much like we had over here, but a different ending to the story. As it touched the midline, down it went again. If I zoom into the 1-hour time frame, this really narrowed down like there was a big move coming, and whoosh, it went down. The Ichimoku cloud was definitely telling us the bias that we should have been looking for a negative call on this. And I was continually looking for the 1, 2, 3 bottom bounce and breakout, using the RSI divergences and the MACD divergences on these short time frames to give me too much bias to the bull side, of watching too closely with indicators that are not strong enough verifiers. And just zooming in to take a look at what's going on with this, and just to observe that it didn't get across the midline, not even on the 5-minute. It just barely stayed, and it stayed below the midline on the 5-minute, very bearish. And in the 15 minute, it's bearish. It's below the midline. Here on the 1 hour time frame, it's bearish. It's below the midline. Here again, we are looking at the bearishness here. Bearishness here. It's below the midline. It's bearish below the midline here. It is bearish in every single time frame for the Bollinger Bands. Now, the scary thing I want to look at here is Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance has been rising as Bitcoin has been falling these last few days, this last week, where it's been steady as Bitcoin's going down. And now it's rising as Bitcoin is going down. And that means that the altcoins are dropping faster in US dollar value than Bitcoin is. And now let's go on and take a look at Bitcoin longs versus shorts. Longs came up to a very high level right at this point, pretty much as I was most bullish as well. And I recall having a conversation in our Discord chat saying, look, it looks like a 1, 2, 3 breakout. I took a long position here and I was so excited. I wanted to add on to it. It looked so bullish. And I said in the chat, I can't add on. That just doesn't fit my trading plan. I wouldn't be able to add on till it proved me correct. And so I closed my position and prices continued to come down, but I didn't go short. And I said, look, if the longs are way up, we have a top formation, I'm really bullish, it's probably time to go short. And indeed it was. The 4-hour exponential moving average crossed over and things came down. The longs have pulled back through this period of time, but they really haven't suffered much over this last 2 waves of down. They have not come back to the levels that we saw back in early November. So I do think that we are probably going to crack sharply lower from this, and I don't want it. I'm not short in the market, but just by the way this is setting up here, it just gives me that sneaking suspicion. And what will that do for the altcoins? Many people have been asking, where do we stand now? What should we do? What should we be thinking about when we're looking at these alts? What should we be avoiding? And what is the mindset we should have right now with this current market? We can see that the bull market watch has been pulling back in our bullishness stance. As we were talking about a few days ago, the alerts have pulled back first and fastest, and we expected that. And now the hold status coins are also pulling back as they are crossing over their 4-hour EMAs and their 12-hour EMAs. Right now, the market has gone back into a neutral stance, and we're watching closely to see if it pulls back into a fail stance. We only have a few coins in near fail stance right now in Binance, and a couple coins over on Poloniex in near fail stance. But the important thing is to see the last few days that Binance markets have really dropped or increased in the number of exit coins. Now, by far, the biggest question that people are asking as I get private messages, as I get emails, as people are talking in our Discord chat, they're asking what should they be doing with their long-term held bag of altcoins. Well, after you've taken the free webinar and you understand the 1, 2, 3 formation, and now you're looking at the long-term pattern of altcoins, you'll say to yourself, well, some of the markets are making bottom formations and have broken higher and they are easing back now, but there's a whole bunch of them that have been making bottom formations, then they went sideways and they really haven't done anything over the last 2 months or 10 weeks. And if you want to have access to all of the data that we've put together on over 200 different cryptocurrencies, and you get to see the state of every single one of them, this is the perfect time. We're having a limited time Bitcoin crash special. If you use the coupon code MINNOW, you'll save an additional 20% off the cryptocurrency prices for our services. So you can scroll down, learn more about the details, and you can choose between the Pro Alerts or the Bull Market Watch. And if Bitcoin is going lower from here, if all of the altcoins are going lower from here, this is the place to be getting out of them into stablecoin or purchasing a product with them so that you're going to get the best value. You're going to pay the fewest Satoshi, and you're going to get this information right now at this super timely point. Another question that I get all the time is, what is the difference between the Bull Market Watch and the Pro Alerts? The Bull Market Watch is meant for the investor who doesn't want to spend very much time managing his cryptocurrency portfolio. So it's only going to trigger us in when we look like we're going to be getting into the trend, and it's not looking for day trading or short-term opportunities. The fewer trades that we do here, the better over the longer period of time. The Pro Crypto Alerts is much more detailed and it takes care of a lot more work for you. You can see here that we have target entries, we have our profit targets, our stop losses are managed and updated inside our spreadsheets. And you can see here over on the Introtocryptos.ca/alerts, you can peek in on what we're holding as our top coins right now in our spreadsheets on Binance. You can see that we are still up 40% here on our AMB trade. We're up 43% on BAT. We're up 26% on ENG. And all of these are 220% on RLC, 90% on VIB. All of these coins have their stop losses managed and assists you in learning how to put this trading system into play. And so in summary, we are in a clear bearish view right now of the markets, and we're watching for the 4-hour relative strength index to break above these levels. At the same time, we'll be watching for the on-balance volume to kick itself up into a positive stance. And we'll be watching for the MACD indicator to cross positive on the 4-hour time frame, but we're really not going to give it any juice at all until it is crossing on the 12-hour time frame from where we're standing right now. When we go into the Ichimoku cloud, we see that in the 4-hour time frame and the 12-hour time frame, we continue in a decidedly bearish stance from here. No sign of a turnaround on this time frame. As we go to the Bollinger Bands, we can see it is a bearish stance below the midline from weekly down every single time frame, right down to the 5-minute time frame. Thanks again for tuning in for another episode of the 24 Hours of Bitcoin. If you haven't already, be sure to head to the website and grab the free webinar so that you are making the most of all of these streams. Thanks again, and all the best in your Bitcoin trading.